they're very good. They don't have to matters. Run down man and that contract. Look for run down pieces. That's serious thing, eh?
Yeah,
that's serious thing.
That is it, exactly.
I know run down piece on this.
You understand?
This is whether Trinidad and Tobago survive or fail. All right. Good morning. All right, we want to start by observing the Lord's presence and thanking Him for our existence and for victory going forward. And to do that, we'd ask one of our comrades to lead us in a word of prayer.
Yes, sir. Beauty praise.
Come to give you praise, honor, and glory. We glorify your name because it's only your name is worthy to be praised. We come once more before you, blessed Lord, asking you to have mercy and compassion on all your heads this morning. Father God, you know the purpose and the reason why. Father God, but we ask you to be with us. When we were coming, you came with us, and when we are about to leave, you do the same. Master God, let everything that we do here, let it be done in decency and in order, in no other name but in Jesus' almighty name. Hallelujah.
Thank you very much, sister. And maybe all of our seats.
At the cross, there I stood for the light, and the burden of my heart rolled away. It was there I prayed, I received my sight, and now I am happy all the way.
Oh,
At the cross, there I stood for the light, and the burden of my heart rolled away. It was there I prayed, I received my sight, and now I am happy all the way.
oh, at the cross.
At the cross, there I stood for the light, and the burden of my heart rolled away. It was there I prayed, I received my sight, and now I am solidarity forever.
Everybody sing.
Solidarity forever. Our union makes us strong. We will keep on struggling until we get a better day. We will keep on struggling until we get a better day. We will keep on struggling until we get a better day. Our union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Our union makes us strong. 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 Our union makes us strong.
Sure, thank you very much. You all may be seated. Of the media here in San Fernando, we welcome you to a press briefing, which essentially is an update on our campaign to resist austerity measures, bad governance, arrogance in governance, you name it, all of which at the end of the day is manifesting in ways that brings about hardship to our people. And therefore we see it as our responsibility, our duty, our profound duty to respond. The trade union movement has a duty to respond to the injustice and the unfairness that is meted out to the people in Trinidad and Tobago. And not just our members, but for those who do not today have a voice. And we must always remember this. And therefore this morning we are calling this press briefing to update as to where we are with respect to Friday's activity. Now Friday's activity has to do with a day of rest and reflection. A day of rest and reflection where the country is invited to use that method to send the most powerful message to those who are taking the job to govern, but those who evidently have already fallen down on that job. And therefore, if we are paying someone to do a job and they are not doing it properly, we ought to send a message to them, evaluate their performance, and send a message to them to correct their action, because at the end of the day, it is the people who are suffering. And so yesterday we were in Port of Spain. We were at the headquarters of NUG, and the entire trade union movement would have made a most profound statement, among many other statements, and that is that we are united in our effort to push back and to combat all of the injustice that is taking place in the country. We are at one with that. And so the miscalculation by those who are committing that act against the people, that we are divided and it is our division that would facilitate them in their attack, they have another thing coming. The message is clear. And another thing that we would have done yesterday was to deliver a very important document, a very important letter to the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. All of us at the leadership of NATOC, JTUM, and of course FITON, supported and surrounded by members' unit coming from all of the umbrella movements, all of the umbrella trade union movement in the country. So today we are continuing. I should also tell you, members of the media, that our community education and campaign has already begun. It started last night in Cedros, where we had a public meeting. That's the OWTU would have held a public meeting with the community of Cedros and surrounding communities, updating them on what is happening with respect to Petrotrin in particular. How is that going to impact their livelihood, and how a removal of Petrotrin is going to bring about chaos in an already chaotic society, and they will not escape that. And so that meeting was well attended, and it was a very good meeting last night. I also want to announce that on tomorrow night we will be in Marabella, and this time this public meeting in Marabella will be addressed by members from the labor movement in Trinidad and Tobago. Not just OWTU, but the entire labor movement of Trinidad and Tobago. These campaign meetings, public meetings, will be well supported by the entire trade union movement. And of course, Thursday, we go to Point 14, where we expect to have a massive public meeting, 7 o'clock. So it's 7 o'clock in Marabella, 7 o'clock in Point 14. And we invite the public to be in full attendance, of course, all of the Petrotrin workers and all of the workers who form members of the various member units of the various trade unions under the various umbrella, trade union umbrella movements and so on, of NATOC, JTUM, and of course, FITON. This morning we are going to have 4 speakers. Comrade Michael Aniset, the General Secretary of NATOC, and the President of the Seamen and Waterfront Workers Trade Union. We would also have the President of NATOC and the President of PSA, Comrade Watson Duke, speaking this morning, and we'll have Comrade Nirvan Maharaj also speaking. And all 3 comrades, apart from their other concerns which they will also express, they will be responding to the scare tactics, the attempt by Minister Marlene MacDonald to instill fear in the minds and the hearts of those who are oppressed. I mean, you are already, your government is already oppressing the people, the poor, and of course the workers, working people. And what they are attempting to do, the likes of Marlene MacDonald and Stuart Young and so on, and don't forget they promised to bring out the Attorney General, so he might come crawl out of the woodwork sometime soon. But all of that is an attempt to push back and to dissuade employees and members of the public from supporting an event perhaps the most signaling event on their 3rd day in their 3rd year in office, the anniversary of the 3rd year in office, 3 disastrous years in office, but as the public attempt to have their say and to point to their lack of performance, theirs is the attempt to scare tactic and to frighten the public. Well, we want to tell the public this morning, and workers generally, have no fear. You have absolutely no fear once you have trade unions, and you should have absolutely no fear once you have trade unions uniting to protect your interests and to defend them. So let them do what they think they should do, which attempt is totally different to the one that they are taking now, different to the one when they were coming asking for the job. When they asked for the job, they didn't say that they will frighten you when they fail on the job and you correct them. They never said that, but that is what we are experiencing. I also want to report this morning that the OWTU continues to make the point that the statement placed in the public domain, the national statement made by the Prime Minister on Sunday night, is flawed. It is erroneous, and that what the Prime Minister sought to do is to skew the figures to justify the case, to sell public goods, to sell public interest, to sell what belongs to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And so the $25 billion that he identified that the country will go in a black hole and that they do not have that money to invest, that is misinformation. Indeed, it is a lie. And we are going to be deconstructing that to show the country how that information is not correct. And therefore, the whole question of painting the National Oil Company in a particular light to make that case, we are going to deconstruct that. Because you see, we are the first to admit that Petrotrin is in trouble. We are the first to admit that Petrotrin needs to be restructured urgently to have Petrotrin deliver on its mandate to be able to contribute to national development. We are the first to say that. And it is on that basis we would have produced a cogent, well thought out, comprehensive plan for the restructuring of Petrotrin. I also want to remind the public that that plan, the alternative to what the Prime Minister wants to do, did not see the light of day thus far, simply because that plan would have allowed Petrotrin to remain in the hands of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And the government's plan is to do otherwise. And therefore, we put on the table again the contribution that Petrotrin would have made. He didn't say anything about that, but that the contribution that Petrotrin would have made to state, to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, some $20 billion from the years 2011 to 2016, over that period. And that is confirmed by the government receipts of that figure, and it is well documented, public knowledge in the TTITI report. And so he did not say that Petrotrin, in spite of that, has been paying its loan. We are fully aware of the challenge with this bullet payment that would be due in August 2019, but what he did not advance is the positives upon which we are going to build on to ensure that Petrotrin remains in the hands of our local Trinidadians and Tobagonians, and that we benefit from our own oil company. And so the data that was used is flawed. We challenge the data that the Prime Minister would have put forward to the country and ask the question, on what basis this decision was taken? And we publicly challenge his numbers. Dr. Rowley must make public the entire report that came from the consultant, McKenzie, that would have informed him to shut down the refinery and to close down Petrotrin. That report must be made public because we want to see at what point in that report McKenzie would have made that recommendations. May I remind you too that the Lashley Committee did not recommend that. The Solomon and Associates report did not recommend that, and that if he is claiming that they hold to that consultant, McKenzie, make that report public. We have always said, and we feel totally vindicated today, that the government was planning to sell the refinery to their friends. That has now been made clear for everybody to see. They are being exposed now. That is their plan all along. And to say, or to attempt a ruse to ask the trade union, OWTU, to buy it, I mean, it's just a sham or a veiled attempt to go to his default position, which really is to sell. The OWTU want to make it public again that we believe that what belongs to the people must be operated by the people efficiently for and in the interest of all of the people. And therefore it must not be placed in the hands of other people with other interests. Petrotrin must stay in the hands of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And we want to ask Dr. Rowley some other questions. You see, he's ducking, eh? Who is Perenco? Who is this company, Perenco? And what interest do that company have in Petrotrin? Did they make a bid for the refinery as yet? I want to leave that there for the while. You'll be hearing more about that as the script unfolds. And so when the time comes, comrades, people of Trinidad and Tobago, as you were duped into email gate, the country was duped into email gate. Remember that? You hear nothing about that again. You, at this point in time, you are being duped into giving away our crown jewels. And the sad thing about that is that because people are ill-informed, they will join the bandwagon to say, give it away. And so, if you can't, and I heard the sentiment expressed yesterday, and it is a popular sentiment, you cannot even procure a proper vessel to provide inter-island service, but you want to make recommendations for your state-owned oil company, the Petroleum Company of Trinidad and Tobago. We cannot trust them. We cannot trust them at their word. We cannot trust even their judgment. It is flawed. And so finally, I want to ask the question and put on the table here this morning that the CARICOM partners, the CARICOM leaders, the prime ministers of the various countries in the CARICOM region who are today recipient of our fuels and who depend on this fuel to power their own economy, they are very nervous. And they are claiming, this is the information that we have, that nobody is talking with them. And so what seems to be a knee-jerk, up and ready decision to close the source of supply of fuels to these countries in the Caribbean, in the region, they are very, very nervous. And I'm not now going to call the names of those prime ministers, we will do that at a later point, who today are claiming that no discussion has been had with them with respect to alternate means of ensuring that they will be provided with the supply of fuel. Now remember too that there are contracts signed with Petrotrin and these countries in the region to supply fuel. And if it is that I am now nervous because I don't know that the fuel that is being supplied to me will continue, I have to start to look for alternative source of supply of that fuel that will be guaranteed because my economy depends upon that. And that is how far-reaching the effect of this decision has gone and continues to go on. The ripple in the water or in the pond just does not stay where the pebble fall. It goes right back to the end of the water and to the banks of the pond. And therefore, this will be felt not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but throughout the region. But may I end here my short discourse this morning by reminding the public of Trinidad and Tobago that when the chickens come home to roost, you will find yourself in a spot, in a place, extreme heat, extreme hardship, extreme burden of unimaginable proportions, when they would have already exited the office, when they would have already left government and secured their millions and their nest eggs and so on, you, the public, will be left empty-handed when a very small community in this country will be holding everything. And you will continue to be the hewers of wood and drawers of water. There is where they want to take us, back to the plantation. But if there is anything that says that there's a labor movement in Trinidad and Tobago, united, ready, willing and able, and is prepared to stand up and stand stoutly in defense of every single citizen in this country over our dead bodies, anything like that will happen. We are prepared to fight to the bitter end. So I want to now turn over to the president of the National Trade Union Center, NATO, Comrade Watson Duke, to respond to, among other things, to respond to some of the threatening statements of the government, in particular, Marlene. And may I also say, Minister Marlene should concern herself with a number of other things rather than trying to threaten workers. Comrade Duke.
Thank you, Comrade Roget. I want to say that even the media is having difficulty understanding what is taking place here. The media is calling this the Joint Trade Union Movement. It's calling this PSA. What you are seeing here is best described as a united labor movement. Yeah! All right? A united labor movement. It's neither JTUM, neither NATUC, neither FITON. It's just all the children of labor. We are coming home to defend labor for one more time in this country. My learned and distinguished friend Marlene McDonald is not well, and so she has made some statements which basically is evidence enough for us to know that she's not well. She's not reading the law properly, and she's not applying the law properly. That's right, maybe she did not pass a law. I want to say to Marlene McDonald that under the Minimum Wages Act, Section 7, all workers of this country are guaranteed 14 days sick leave. Yeah. Under Section 85 of the Civil Service Regulations, all officers, public officers, police, prisons, etc., civil servants, they are entitled, they have a right to 14 days sick leave. Yeah. And I just want to pause because I heard that she's looking at the live, and I want you to write those down. Minimum Wages Act, Section 14, Civil Service Regulation, Section 85. But I want to go on to say to her that once a person has absented his or herself from work, there are many different forms of leaves they can apply for. So let's say the person applied for a sick leave on Friday. That person has given an account for the absence. And once they have given an account for the absence, they are not responsible for what goes on at work. They cannot be held accountable, and they are not responsible. They are on their own time. Mark that down, Marlene. I know you're not well. If you can't take the notes, let someone take it for you, because we are going somewhere with this. And finally, I want to say to Marlene, if you disregard the law and you want to play your henchman for your boss, Rowley, you will have something coming at you. We will not hesitate in the public service and in this united labor movement. By no means is it a registered name, but it's the best thing I could find to describe us. We will not hesitate to bring you before the magistrate court or any single permanent secretary or any single head of department or anyone who is acting on behalf of the employer who believe they can jail, fine, or penalize anyone for taking 1 day sick leave. As a matter of fact, the law is clear. You do not have to supply a medical paper or give any evidence that you were sick if you take one day off. No evidence at all. None. None. All you have to just say, I was sick, and sign the form as you were sick. You need no medical paper. But if she does interfere with that, we will find a nice way to use Section 42 of the Industrial Relations Act. And I will not seek to apply it here, but we will utilize Section 42 of the Industrial Relations Act that has never, ever, ever been used before in a manner for us to bring you before the court and any single one who would have followed your devilish idea. We want to say to this PNM government, as is oftentimes referred to by their honorable leader, the PNM government, I thought the government was the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. But their honorable leader, the PNM leader, he's saying he's a PNM government. That is wrong. It defies the laws of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And as far as I understand, under the Constitution, we have the freedom of association. People can be part of a trade union movement. As far as I understand, under the Industrial Relations Act, no employer shall make the life of a worker so onerous, so difficult, or prejudice him in any kind of way that he should not join a trade union. As far as I understand, everything they are doing is to make the trade union movement unattractive. So they use the most barbaric, the most vile and descriptive and undescript language to refer to us as if we were barbarians, as if we have done nothing good when they're referring to us. We want to frown upon that and say, for people who are leading the country, you should have a better line of languages. You have went to school and your words should depict your education. But as far as we understand, this is a PNMB team. And we want to say to you, the lines have been drawn and the war is on. Friday, every single worker who is hearing this, every single public servant, those who are police officers, those who are fire officers, prison officers, those who are teachers, those who are working in all essential areas, you take a day off to rest and reflect. It is your damn right to do so, whenever you please. And let us see who Marlene's serving. Let's see the God that Rowley is bowing down to. Let him take action. I will not be here, and all the PSA offices would be closed. This is war, and we're taking it to you.
President of the OWTU.
Thank you very much, Comrade Roget, and a pleasant good morning to my brothers and sisters in labor. And when I say in labor, I also mean the members of the media here today, because you too are working class. And any policy or program implemented by a government that adversely affects the working class will also affect you. So this also is something that you have a stake in. My brothers and sisters, as I sit here this morning, I feel a sense of pain, of hurt, because I can remember in 2003 when the People's National Movement also destroyed the sugar industry, and today they are attempting to destroy the oil industry in Trinidad and Tobago. And the People's National Movement therefore have the unique distinction of being the organization that would have destroyed the national patrimony and given away the national patrimony of Trinidad and Tobago. And I don't want to say much about Marlene MacDonald. All I will say, because I think Comrade Duke would have articulated our point of view with regard to her statements, I want her to know that we are not going to forget that the People's National Movement is the most anti-labor organization this country has ever seen. We will not forget the attempt at the Industrial Stabilization Act. We will not forget the fact that thousands of oil workers and sugar workers were brutalized and faced the brunt of the police, the army, batter and bullets and tear gas in 1975. We are not going to forget the destruction of the sugar industry and the fact that almost 250,000 people were adversely affected. We are not going to forget the shutting down of the steel mill and casting 900 workers on the bread line. I want to say to the PNM government today and to Mr. Keith Rowley that any people, if pushed too far, no matter how docile, no matter how passive, no matter how humble, if pushed too far, may very well one day rise up and react in ways that you will never expect. And therefore, I want to give my brother union, the OWTU, a special support coming from the All Trinidad General Workers Trade Union, because both of us have the same founding father. And we will not allow our founding father to be turning in his grave as the PNM attempt to destroy not only the All Trinidad, but also destroy the Oil Workers Trade Union. We will stand together, united as one, and deal with the PNM. My brothers and sisters, this country is facing a slippery slope, and we are on the brink of falling into a deep abyss. And I want to say to the working class of this country, you are being given a unique opportunity to stand behind the labor movement and band together as brothers and sisters and take the struggle forward to the people's national movement and to this government which seems intent on destroying this country and destroying the working class. And I always say to my people, when your end comes and you look back, do not beg God for one more chance to stand up for the things that you should have stood up for when you were given this chance. My brothers and sisters, the time is now. The time is now for you to stand together, united behind the OWTU, and let us take the fight to the people's national movement. Let us take the fight to the government. The very existence of the sovereignty of Trinidad and Tobago is under threat. And I want to thank Mr. Keith Rowley for one thing. He does not know it, but Keith Rowley would have initiated one act that have brought the trade union movement together. Regardless of our differences in political, social, economic, or even cultural ideologies and perspectives, this one act of Keith Rowley has united us as a band of brothers and sisters to take the fight to him. So my brothers and sisters, let me say this morning that the over 25 companies that the All Trinidad General Workers Trade Union represent today, we are saying to the workers there, maybe, just maybe, you may be ill on Friday. Maybe, just maybe, you may have something to do and you need a casual day. Feel free to do what you have to do. It is your right. No one can take that away from you. Thank you very much.
General Secretary of NATO and the President of Seamen and Waterfront Workers Trade Union, Robert Michael Hollis.
Morning, comrades. Morning to the news media. Morning to the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Morning to the opposition. But more importantly, morning to the working class of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to put this issue in a proper context so that members of the general public will be able to reflect and think deeply And I have confidence that the working class in Trinidad and Tobago can think for themselves, and they wouldn't allow themselves to be frightened by statements coming from the government and also the business community. Just imagine, look at here, the business community is calling on the union to hold your hand. And when business and government get together on an issue involving the trade union movement, we in the labor movement and we as working class people know that we are right. Having said that, if Rosa Parks had taken the decision that there is a law for black people to get up when a white person comes into the bus, if Rosa Parks didn't take that decision that you see me, I am going to sit down, what would have happened? If Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison, had taken the decision that I'm going to call to the establishment, what would have happened to South Africa today? I'm coming home now. If we did march for Shaka Ramos in the rain and in the sun, what would have been the position of Trinidad and Tobago today? If the dock workers didn't strike in 1919 against oppression, what would have been the state of Trinidad and Tobago? If in 1939 Butler and his team didn't take the stand that they took, what would have happened to the livelihood and standards of living of workers in Trinidad and Tobago and across the Caribbean? And I can call Mary Shaw and several other, the Manleys and all these other people. The point that I'm making, comrades, is that the working class has never and will never get anything from any political party unless we stand up and demand what we want. That is the historical fact. That is the historical data, and it cannot be denied. And let me remind people, because we seem to forget in Trinidad and Tobago, our now Prime Minister, and I have it on tape, and we're going to run it. We're going to run it. When he says that he's not supporting the then government on any measures whatsoever until they come out of power, was that fear to the Trinidadians? He could have said it. When the Prime Minister stood up and said that he must get paid, when he did work as the opposition leader and challenged them that if you didn't pay me, well, all the bills is illegal. Was he thinking about Trinidad and Tobago? How come, comrades, brothers and sisters, and the wider public, that today, and I am not talking about strike now, I am talking about a fundamental right of workers. The right to resist your oppressors is a fundamental human right. The right for workers to stand up in defense of justice and rights is a fundamental human right. The right for workers in Trinidad and worldwide to resist any attempt to throw workers on a breadline, thereby destroying family lives, thereby destroying the very existence and social fabric of our society, is an important issue, and is an issue that cannot be taken lightly. And therefore I say that the 7th is a day of resistance. It's a day of resistance. Resistance to what is happening. As the comrade said, we saw what happened to Carolee because there was a lot of plans for Carolee, and where Carolee is today. Are we going to allow our history to be destroyed because certain people want to get their hands on the oil industry? because there is a union that is militant, because there's a union that stands up in the defense of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And therefore, to silence the voice of that powerful organization, we're going to pull the carpet under that union feet. Is that what we call democracy in a democratic society? Our right to disagree with the present government is being challenged. And I made the point, and I want to make it again. When you see a political leader calls people who is going up on a slate for his internal election imps, you must understand. When you see a political leader and a leader of the country who is arrogant and dismissive of everybody who is against him, we have to start to pinch ourselves. When you see a political leader and a prime minister who refuses up to today to answer a letter that was sent by the 3 joint trade union leaders, he refused to answer us. That is contempt for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And in those circumstances, I am saying that we have a right to do what we are doing on the 7th. We have that fundamental right, and therefore, I'm calling on everybody from the docks, Bayroids, Angostura, across the whole spectrum of Trinidad and Tobago to stand up in defense. This is not about OWTU now, you know. This is about the working class of Trinidad and Tobago and what kind of future that we would build for Trinidad and Tobago. Because they are hoping for this to fail. But time longer than twine. And I want to make a final point before I close it, because I intend to talk tomorrow in Marabella. Come out, the public, and hear the trade union views. We're going to raise some fundamental issues. What kind of society that we are living in when a minister can go on a political platform and wave a document and say, we fired 2 senior workers in the port? What kind of society are we building on future for our children when a cabinet can bypass the procurement process and go and buy a vessel because they say it was a steal of a deal, and up to now we can't get it running? What kind of society are we? And I want to make that point, you know. When they sent home the workers in the tourist industry, the tourism, TITCO, did they follow the principles as laid down in the Industrial Relations Act? Did they meet with the union, the sitting union, and have discussions? No. A minister was flying out the country and say, well, we're terminating TITCO, and that was the end. And I have nothing to talk about. When they sent home the workers in Caroni Green, did they go through the proper process? When they sent home the lecturers at UTT, and they are now trying to send them 287 workers at UTT, did the government and cabinet follow the legal process as is enshrined in the Constitution? So that if we are wrong, Stuart Young, Madin, Attorney General, Commissioner of Police, lock them up first. Don't touch the workers on them, because they break the law. The law must be for everybody. The cabinet of this country must not have the unfettered right to break every law and principles of good industrial relation practice and fundamental human rights. And then we must sit down like little sheep and accept it. And when we take a stand in defense of OWTU and the workers in Petrotrin and the families and the community and all the working class, we are now being told that if you stay home, you could make a 3 months jail and we could charge you $500. I mean, that is dictatorship. That is fascism. That reminds me of Trump. That reminds me of Hitler. That reminds me of Mussolini, and we cannot and must not allow that kind of thinking to pervade in this society. And that is more the reason why I am demanding that all the workers stay home Friday, so we'll send a clear message to this government that we ain't afraid them. We are here for justice. We are here for what is right, and a fundamental right must never be taken away from the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Governor Michael Elizabeth. We are about to close this morning's press briefing. Before I do that, I think I omitted earlier on to announce the unions that are present here with us this morning. So we have the Maxi Taxi Association of Trinidad and Tobago. We have the Contractor and General Workers Union. We have the Amalgamated Workers Union. We have the Seamen and Waterfront Workers Trade Union. We have the Communication Workers Union. We have all Trinidad here with us. Nuge is also present with us. TU Transport and Industrial Workers Union. Banking, Insurance and General Workers Union, big group. Postal Workers Union. And of course we have the Oilfield Workers Trade Union. And last but by no means least, we have the Public Services Association. What we have here this morning, comrades and members of the media, Trinidad and Tobago, is a strong, united representation and indication of the type of fight that we are going to be engaged in to the bitter end to protect the interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to end by saying this morning that the union has a plan, an alternative to the madness that Dr. Rowley wants to unleash on the people of Trinidad and Tobago. That to say that there is not an option is yet another lie. That we would have listened, the country listened in awe as the Prime Minister spewed lie after misinformation towards his own objective. And therefore, he is a person that cannot be trusted. You cannot trust this Prime Minister at all. And that is significant. When you cannot trust the leader of a government, then you have to fend for yourself. And hence the reason why we are out here in this press conference and subsequent public education forum, telling the public not only that what we are going to do, but the part that you have to play in defense of your own self, your families, and the future of Trinidad and Tobago. Stand by, fasten your seatbelt, get ready for a rough ride, but be assured, at the end of it, the labor movement, this entire United Labor Movement will take you safely to your destination that all of you are entitled to. The public is advised to listen to Dr. Sheila Rampasad's commentary on Petrotrin today. It is something that you should not miss. It is one of the many voices, one of the thousands of voices who are now speaking out against the atrocity that is being committed, not only against the Petrotrin workers, but against the people of Trinidad and Tobago. You are advised to listen to that. And if there's any way in which we can afford a rebroadcast, we're certainly going to influence that or contribute for that to happen. Because it is those spaces and those voices on 95.5, it is those spaces and those voices that are important to listen to. Don't just listen to a prime minister who you cannot trust. And he has a track record. We will be talking about all of those things as we go from district to district, community to community, town to town, all of whom are going to be impacted by this decision, bringing them public awareness and public education. Thank you very much, members of the media. Thank you very much, Trinidad and Tobago. Stay with us as we continue our installment, putting out the information to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much.
name, when you read that, I want to talk to Slim. Get the name I call him. Get the name I call him Slim, and he got him Slim. Get the name I call him here, Slim. The man in the report yesterday said he gave all your first choice for the plan. Tell me what all you're doing with it because all you have the expertise on the ground.
How much of it
It costs no money because it's straight up. So you have to bring it.
How much of it so far?
But you're the one sitting and talk. $30 billion anyone want? $30 billion anyone? You have to be a madman. You listen.
If I tell you, you are no more.
So it's $30 billion. So you
really want to sell this
so this you behind you. So they use it. You sleep in the devil 2000. You sleep in the devil 2010. And you come back and sleep in the devil 2000.
Still China, still China.
Still trying.
I the bread.
Just give me a picture and then one just stick on the car. If one me never stop, you know.